Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with E.B. Tucker, editor of the Tucker Letter and the author of Not for Sale: How to Survive and Thrive in a World That Wants to Control You, as well as the book Why Gold, Why Now, and The War Against Wealth and How to Win. E.B., it's a real pleasure to have you here. My brother and I have admired your work for a very long time and your perspective, and it's shaped the way how many of us actually look at the bigger picture. So we're just really thrilled to have the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. So, Versan, you want to start off with the big question?
Yeah, of course. We are, I would say, at a very fascinating point in history where an enormous amount of wealth and power is not only being created, but also being destroyed. And I think this is all tied to those larger macro cycles that we see throughout time, where wealth is consolidating. It's going to shift hands eventually and move from broken systems into the new, more efficient ones. And I think right now we're actually living through one of these transitions on multiple fronts, between the rise of AI, disruptions in financial technology, and the breakthroughs we see in quantum computing. It's very overwhelming, and we've never seen anything like this before. So, from your perspective, maybe you could tell us, where do we stand in this moment of history, and of course, how do you see the forces like reshaping the world as we know it?
Well, this might be the most free you'll ever be. That's something I think is lost on people. I mean, they're stuck in this mindset that's called in psychology a double bind, and it's that I don't have enough and I can't get more, and these two things are just competing. And meanwhile, what they do is they distract themselves with they got a vape in one hand and the phone in the other, and they spend the whole day being digitally and chemically stimulated. By the way, I'm actually a huge proponent of nicotine, but I mean, I just think if you watch people, they're sort of like picking at their cuticles and tapping their legs and distracted, and they blame people. And this week in the Tucker letter, we're talking about counseling in America is $1 billion a week business. I'm sure that you both have friends that are bravely going to counseling. It's like a badge of honor now. And I mean, nothing really comes from it. It's not like it's a bad thing, but it's like this thing that everyone does. And it's 70% of millennials and 57% of Gen Z plan to see a counselor this year. And half of those people report that it's personal finance anxiety that's got them going to the counselor. So anyway, so I'm not anxious at all, and it's not because I'm rich, because nobody really knows how rich I am, right? I mean, it's like it always gets me when people are like, easy for you to say because you're rich. Well, you don't really know that, I mean, maybe I'm rich, maybe I'm not rich, and what is even rich? Because there's 3,000 billionaires in the world. I have less than $1 billion worth of assets, just to get the record straight on that. But most of those people are still really locked into the game. And what that means is that just a little bit more. Now, for them, it's not like more pocket money. It's more admiration, more respect, more acknowledgement from peers and all these things. It's really important that people see all this, because you cannot navigate if you don't see what's going on. And the trick is to you really got to let go of this whole notion that you're this like fixed point in this game and that you're not going to make it and you need something. You don't need anything. You're going to die with nothing. That's what's going to happen. All right, it's going to be over. Okay. And what happens when you really embrace this is you say to yourself, what if this is the most free I'm going to be the rest of my life? What would I do with my time? And what starts to happen is the whole picture becomes clear. We are marching towards total digital control.
100%.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We're going to have something like Fedcoin. What I wanted to share with you is that recently I had a situation. I have what's colloquially known as a baby mama. That's a person that you had children with. It's not your wife. Anyway, I have to pay the baby mama. So she's a cool chick though. But she said to me, "You didn't send the medical, like a bunch of medical bills, like dental stuff, whatever." I said, "Yeah, you cashed it. Wait a minute, you cashed it twice." She's like, no, I didn't do that. She's like a nice person. She would never do this, right? So I look online. What happened is somebody intercepted the check out of her mailbox. It's not really the most proactive mail checker. And they took the check and they mobile deposited it into an account. I know it was someone here because it was like the bank is like a bank that's in the area. It's not like a Bank of America. And then what they did is they do it to Photoshop and they changed the check number by one digit and did it again. So they took the money twice. What happened is, now I've heard of this before, right? I mean, this is not like a new thing. It's pretty easy because the checks run through a machine and it's like it scans the routing number and the account number and then it pulls it out of the account. And as we've already established, I have plenty of money. It's just, pulling the money out of there like you'll never notice. Anyway, so what happened is I went to the bank and I know the bank guy and everything. And the guy was like, listen, man, he's like, we've got a fraud case, whatever. I've got like 1,000 of these. So the guy starts telling me, he's like, it's like, it's rampant. So, several days later, my American Express, I only have an American Express for like 20 years. And American Express gets a charge for like $1.25 from some place. Now these are unrelated issues, but it's like 3 days later from some place in Ohio. So I call the place. It's like like a GI clinic or something, Dublin, Ohio. The lady's like, are you a patient? No. Well, what do you want to talk to accounting? I'm like, no, I'm just saying like somebody just charged my card from there, for like $1.25, which I'm pretty sure is like someone testing the number and then they're going to like hit it with, they're going to go buy like a Ducati motorcycle or something. So the lady was like dismissive or whatever. Now, so anyway, so sure enough, like 3 days later after that worked, somebody hit the card in like Juarez, Mexico for like 600 pesos at the Mercado Libre. So, which is like, pretty much like buying, some basic thing you're going to return it for cash or whatever, typical scam. What does Amex tell me? It's so many people that they're like, they don't even want to, they're just like, we'll just give you the money back, give you another card, which I don't even care, right? I'm just saying like, I'm just notifying you, that like, I'm definitely not going to pay you for this. And like, whatever else happens, I'm not going to pay you for that either. Here's my point. I wrote about Fedcoin just about 10 years ago. Okay. And I think people really are so like poorly educated on how to think, right? Like my kids, I don't make them go to school. They go to school, but I make them, what I do is we play a lot of tennis and then we play a lot of chess and we play Rummy Cube and we do all this stuff. We don't have a TV. Now I'm not like a Luddite, but what I'm saying is I'm trying to teach them like logic,
critical thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Like what happens after this happens, it's just called this cause and effect thing. And that's all I want to do is like send them out into the world like that. And most people is so lost on them that you're like, so for me, I start thinking, people, you tell them about the Fedcoin and they're like, well, how can I make money off that? I'm like, well, it's like so crazy, right? I mean, like, why do you got to make money off everything? I mean, sometimes you're just like, you just see it for what it is. It helps you navigate, So what does Fedcoin do? Well, it gives total taxation control. I mean, you're never going to cheat on your taxes. It's all, digital on a closed loop blockchain, different from Bitcoin. I mean, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin, distributed ledger, but like the closed loop ledger is the same thing, just without distribution. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just like the three of us are running it, at MIT or something. So it gives you total taxation. It allows you to prevent any counterfeiting. So there can't be any counterfeiting. And then also you can control every, issuance on that blockchain. You could say like, no more, party for you because you've been a naughty poster on Facebook or something. So, okay. So we know that that's like a dream come true for the powers that be. And why would it not be? I mean, it's like totally logical that you would implement that. And so my point is, okay, well, everybody's reaction to that after they try to make money off of it is like, well, God, that's like awful or something like I would never agree to that. This is the democracy or whatever. Like there'll be some candidate that'll forget about it. What's going to happen is that I started thinking about all this fraud and stuff. And I was like, what all these institutions are telling me is that it's so commonplace. Like, by the way, the check fraud, they're not that I care if they prosecute this. I don't care. But what I'm saying is the guy told me that they don't even prosecute it. Like, because it's too complicated. They're like, who cares? We just like try to get it back to their bank and then opening a new account and it'll happen again. Wow. Okay. So can you imagine like the little old lady that's like, I only had 50 grand in there. They took it all. She's going to be like, you got to do something to help me. And what is that something going to be? It's going to be Fedcoin. I mean, like, call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. But my point is you can start seeing around you, because we already have like the cash thing. Okay. Like I always like wonder how much cash do people have? I mean, if you have like more than 10 grand, it's sort of like superfluous, because what are you going to do with it? I mean, it's like you can't even transact with it, right? You're going to like carry it around like a shoebox or something, right? It's like I don't know if you've ever seen a lot of money, but like it's really like takes up a lot of space. I mean, not as much as silver. That's like the worst thing to put money in, because there's so much silver that like you can't even store it. But anyway, so I'm not advocating digitizing yourself. What I'm saying is that like we already got rid of cash. I mean, there used to be like a $500 bill and a $1,000 bill and all this stuff back. Just forget about it. That was when $1,000 was like almost like a house, So now there's like $100. I mean, like I spend half my time in New York. I mean, you cannot even eat a proper meal for $100. I mean, it's like it's not really serious money, So like, and I'll carry around a couple $100, but it's like it's only because inevitably the Amex is going to get stolen periodically. So basically, you're always going to have cash, right? Like the cash is not going anywhere. It's just not functionally useful. And what you start seeing is that you're still going to have Amex and you're still going to have your bank, because you need some sort of relationship intermediary to any financial system. You have to have some sort of like thing that you interact with that's tied into that. And then you start looking at all these stable coins, which a lot of people got this wrong, right? I mean, it's like, there was a lot of coverage in like the really good financial newsletters about how like, Tether's balance sheet, well, it sort of doesn't really matter, because it's like what you see is that the creation of the Fed was all about like the banks of the day. You sort of like, you watch how all this came together and you're like, the Fed, they're just going to like, it's going to be a sacrificial lamb. Mm-hmm. They're going to be like, you know what? We're going to let Rand Paul investigate and we're going to prosecute these people and probably not do anything other than give them a sanction or something. And, maybe some low level guy will get like fired and that's going to be it. It's going to be over and we'll have a new Fed. And the new Fed will incorporate these stablecoin operators because they are the modern day banks. Like banks don't have the same function. I mean, if you're going to be able to borrow with a stablecoin, it's like, what is the bank really, how do they even pull the levers anymore? Like the whole game has changed. And so here's my point, and you can ask me whatever you want. I start seeing this coming together and I start saying, wow, I mean, that's going to happen. There's going to definitely be a digital blackout where like, the phone won't function, just spins around. There's like a Russian flag or something and that's it. And that's going to be a big setup to get you to agree to like only using .safe websites or something that are like federally administered from some new bureaucracy that's going to like eat up a bunch of DC real estate or something. and so that'll be safe and you can trust that it's biometric and we'll keep an eye on everything. And then, so you just see how all this is happening and you're just like, it's so obvious. So what do? You have a good time. I mean, like, if you're like not enjoying yourself, like something's wrong with you, like, and I don't mean like spend yourself into a hole, but what I'm trying to say is like changing your mindset. Mm-hmm. And your mindset needs to be, I am not poor little me in this system. I am floating down this system, this river. All right. And I am not afraid of anything ahead of me because everybody's on the river. And I am not the least able to swim person in the pack. Like I'm at least operating in the middle of the bell curve, maybe better. And so like, I'm going to cruise, man. I'm not going to try to like the gold people, they always get this wrong. It's like, they're going to take gold away at some point. And it's going to be like through an excise tax, right? It's going to be like where you can't trade it. So you can like sit on it, for like a long time, right? Until you like get into some illicit deal with, some person that is like, shady. Okay, whatever. That doesn't sound so great to me. So like, that sounds like a tough way to live. I mean, if you've known people in organized crime, I've known people in this, like, not exactly the most, peaceful and serene way to go down the river, right? It's like, it's tough. It's really talking about like sleeping with an Uzi, So I mean, it's not really so as easy as people think. So like, you'll have some Buick driver that's like, well, I'm going to go underground. It's like, enjoy yourself, like, I'm going to play tennis. That's what I'm going to do, and I'll use Fedcoin to buy the racket and I'll just get on with it. And it's like, there's a lot of people and we're kind of all like, we're this big herd. And so I think the hallmark of advanced thinking is you can fundamentally disagree with something and functionally navigate it. That's the key right there. And people, they have a very hard time with that.
The challenge, though, and the opportunity of what you're describing here is really coming down to recognizing that there's conditioning that's been indoctrinated into people, but then it's up to you actively choosing where you want to place your attention and value. Because, freedom and true resilience and even truest form of wealth and sense of it, I think, comes from the understanding that our worth is not really tied to the material accumulation, but ultimately having your anonymity, enjoying life, living up to the fullest because you have no control of the situation.
Okay, but let's be clear. We're not advocating a life of collective, these people that become like bitter towards wealth. Like, what we're saying is it's not enough resources is not your problem, and too many resources wouldn't solve your problem. So really, you don't have a problem. So
right.
like,
just balance.
like, yeah, I mean, okay, so
it's
like
a mental,
it's a
psychological
it's a
thing.
mindset. Okay, now in America, most of the people that you deal with when you go and you buy some sort of product, like in New York, I have these like solid brass doorknobs in my place or whatever. They're like super old looking. They're actually, you can actually find them still made, but it's very hard. And you go to try to get them, and it's like really hard to buy anything now, as you know, because nobody really wants to do the job, right? Because it's like not economic for them to do the job. Like for instance, the Starbucks barista has like student loans from Grand Canyon University from some criminal defense degree they never finished. Okay. And so they just got to make you your stupid drink so they can get their paycheck, which is not enough, and pay off these loans and just maybe have a fun weekend. And they got all these problems, right? There's no part of them that's like, you know what I love doing is making coffee. That's what I love doing. I'm into it. I lose myself in the process. Whereas go to Japan and the people are like, why don't you just sit down and I'm going to make you a coffee, because what I do is I make coffee. This is the tone that they present with you, is like, if I didn't want to make coffee, I would not work here. Like, it's very different. See, in America, we do these things we don't like for money that we're afraid to spend, which is not enough. And so one of the number one things people can do is they can immediately stop doing things they don't like. And I am not sympathetic to the argument that they have to. They always tell you they have to. Well, I have to because my kid's got to go to daycare. And it's like, you know what? I don't believe that, because in my life, like I was sort of forced into this way of thinking about 20 years ago because I got fired. And the reason I got fired is because I was a really bad employee, because I wasn't doing the job that I was hired to do. I was doing, this type of stuff all the time. And they said, we're like sick of you, like, I mean, because I kept kind of finagling my way out of being fired. Anyways, okay, so now I got no job. So I really had to make some choices. And it's not like this whole hard work thing. Don't get me wrong. I just had to decide, okay, am I willing to drive like a pickup truck, a beater? Yeah, I mean, sure, why not? I mean, I don't have a boss anymore. You know what I mean? I started making all these trade-offs, and it was like, what am I willing to do to not have some loser telling you what to do all the time? Well, for me, the answer was I'm willing to do a lot. I mean, like I'm willing to have a roommate. I'm willing to whatever. And people they give you these reasons that they can't do something they like with their time. I mean, time is your resource.
Yeah.
And what happens is when you start using the time to do something you like, magic happens. Like 100% of the time, you find strange new ways to survive because you have an energy that attracts. Like, okay, let me give you an example. You contacted me and you said, I've been following your work and like to have you on your show, and normally I would ignore that message because I get like 10 of those a week, and most of the
I
time it
bet.
seems pretty useless. But
Mhm.
I looked at your show and I said, these guys seem like they're pretty hip, like they kind of know what's going on, and like they're not just like typical drumbeat of stuff. Yeah, I'll go on that show. Now, if you were busy working at some place you hate, and you couldn't. I mean, this is, by the way, this is a weekday, so like, you're taking this focused time, and if you were doing something you hated, you'd be like, I can only do it at like 9 o'clock, and I'd say, well, guess what, man, I'm not. I mean, I'll hang out then, but I'm not working at that time. Okay. So my point is that this type of interaction that we're having right now is only a result of you taking a risk with your time and investing your time doing something you enjoy, which then builds on itself. And people just will not do that in America. They will not do it. Like, if you're into gardening, go be a gardener. Like, change your life to accommodate your passion, and then watch how everything works. It just works, because you would rather be doing that than be battling for status, in some world that you really don't want to be in. I know this is a lot for people, but what I'm saying is just try to remember that we don't seem very anxious, and a lot of people out there do. Okay. So maybe we actually do know what we're talking about,
You make such a valid, excellent point, Tucker. I'm not even kidding, man.
Mhm.
It all starts with the mindset and psychology, but I completely agree. The culture, even, and the mindset is so different overseas, especially in Japan. I mean, it's almost like that Japanese philosophy concept called ikigai, where kind of find your thing, and as a result, magic happens and all the other stuff that comes later because you're doing what you are enjoying is a byproduct.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
it builds on itself, like you said. I mean, I
It's
couldn't
simple.
explain it better.
Joseph Campbell, it's simple. Follow your bliss. Doors
Yeah.
will open, where you previously saw walls. I mean, it's what you find is all these philosophies are the same. And that's when you start realizing, wow, it's like learning algebra. Once you sort of see it, you see it everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And one other interesting thing that you made a comment on, and well, this is how I feel about it regarding what you said. Don't try to stress yourself out with things you can't control. Just focus on what you can control, because there are so many external factors. For example, the dystopian vision that these financial elites are trying to build. I mean, can't change that. You can't really change the direction we're heading in. And as you said, it's clear as day. It's happening right in front of us. If you're paying attention, you could see it. But, I think you got to control what you can control. Don't worry
And
about things you
realize
can't.
you don't have to change these things. Like, when you see the world is like a pyramid, and there's a lot of people at the bottom of the pyramid. And then as you rise up the pyramid, there's less people. But at the top of the pyramid, there's not one person. What you find is right below some person that gets their hand on the top is another person that's willing to hack them to pieces to get to the top themselves. Let them do it.
Yeah.
Let them do it. This place in this kind of like upper, portion of the 2/3, bottom of the 1/3 is a fabulous place to live, because nobody really like. I'm super into the band Fish, and the guy that plays keyboard for them is like this kind of glasses wearing, like curly haired kind of 60-year-old dude, and he was saying how, like, one of the coolest things is that you've been playing in this band for 40 years, you have like 300 or 400 songs, like you've never really had like a Billboard hit, but I mean, this is like they've like done great, right? And he can just walk down the street in New York and like nobody knows who he is. And I was like, that's what you want, man. You don't want to be worth $350 billion, with like, frogmen swimming under your boat to make sure no one kills you. You know what I'm saying? You want to be the guy
Good
that
point.
packs out 30,000 fans, or like, dancing around like noodles in the audience, and like every show you have, they fill the place up. So you make a couple $1 million and your tax return says occupation keyboardist.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like, it's like nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares. It's like even the tabloids, even Rolling Stone doesn't really particularly like those guys. And so to me, it's like, that's living your something you want to do, and anyway, so my point is, at the top of the pyramid, let them fight.
I want to add something to what you
Yeah.
said, Tucker. You made a good point again, and we absolutely agree with you. We see the world through a similar aperture. But what's interesting is we deal with a lot of investments, kind of like yourself, but focused on these risk on like crypto markets and macro analysis. And what's interesting is a lot of our clients, some of them, they're very outspoken about the fact that they don't want to ever sell some of these assets they hold, because I think it's going to, change the world one day. And some of them will, we believe so, but they never want to sell anything, and some of these people, community members, clients, they have like a lot of some of these digital assets that haven't even hit all-time highs. And the thing is, I ask them sometimes, I'm like, you have so much, if it just goes up, let's say, for example, 50%, which is easily achievable in good conditions on a 4 or 5 year cycle in the market, why wouldn't you sell? I'm like, are you trying to be a multi-billionaire sitting there with Elon Musk? Is that what your dream is? I mean, what's your why behind it? And
well, they're not going to be able to answer you because it's very difficult for you to cut your own hair. I mean, obviously, I've given up hair cutting entirely, but the reason you can't do it is because you can't see yourself. So it's extremely difficult to objectively advise yourself. And so when someone says to you that they're not going to sell, the right answer is, I'm never going to make you do that. So like, because it's impossible to, what you're dealing with is a conviction level that's so strong that it's an ideology.
You're right.
And
exactly. Yep.
What you're expressing is that you have been around certain situations, some monetary, maybe there's things I don't know about you. Like there might be things from your life where you have watched ideology block thinking. And you realize that it's dangerous because the ideology becomes stronger than evidence. And so you begin getting more and more convicted. So you're making the soup over here and you're eating it over here, and that's all you're thinking about. And you start, this happened to me with former business partners where, they become so enamored with their personal money quest that they can't take any advice, and then they see advice as threatening. And so they make all, so what you see is just going to be one person alone like this, and it's like depends on what you're going for, but like, to me, that's not really the way. I mean, the way is to say, it's difficult for me to say if I would be a seller based on hypothetical situations. So like, the way it looks to me now, it's hard for me to imagine that it would be a good time to sell that. That's the answer of someone that's probably going to make lots of money, because the goal is to make money in periodic, waves throughout your life, right? I mean, like the Tucker letter, I'm sure you read the piece when I went to the Bitcoin conference. Like, there's people there that have like $50 million worth of digital money on their phone, and like they'll never spend a cent of it. And it's like, it's fine, but like, what you start figuring out by talking to them is like, they're not even connected, and they're not even like in the river with us. Right. I'm like, I don't know if I would bet that you're going to have a hard time managing this, because like, having a pile and managing wealth is two different things. Like it's one thing, that's when you see somebody that has one big trade and you're like, it's not one big trade. I mean, like, it's treating $100 the way you treat $100 million. That's what you figure out, is that you have to, like, when you start working this way, it's like you start realizing that it's a marathon. This is a process, not an event. So when people bring that to you, I think it's like a chance for you to practice like next level philosophy by realizing, spotting an ideology, and then giving people permission to be as ideological as they want.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to make you sell that.
Yeah. But like, the reason I think it's such a critical topic and controversial at the same time is because this pivots us into the next part of the conversation, is where we're going. Blockchain technology, cryptocurrency. The way I see it, Tucker, and I want your opinion, and Verson shares a similar view, but he can speak for himself as well. But I mean, if we just study history, every time some technological disruption, revolution, or innovation has really changed the world, there's always been a trade-off in liberties and a consolidation of wealth and power. This time is no different. The way I'm looking at it is they've created this complex cryptocurrency ecosystem architecture to kind of lure in people, and eventually it's going to collapse on its own weight, and they'll have a reason to kind of fully manifest that reset of the system, which will be a trade-off, and they'll have more control and issue their whole, Fedcoin, and introduce it as a solution to the problem. And I think most of these cryptos are going to go to zero. I think they're going to crash. We believe that some of these technologies, the underlying blockchain, the rails, for some of them,
the infrastructure
will actually survive, kind of like in the .com bubble when 90% went bankrupt and a few winners emerged. And that's why selling is an important thing. But why don't you talk about that? What are your thoughts?
But yeah, so I also, well, people should understand that I wrote, a book about gold that, and it's 5 years ago, and gold's done great. And I didn't buy any Bitcoin until it was like, well, I set up an account in 2013 or 12 or something with a company called Uphold, that like a guy I knew was working there, was like made an investment there and was working there. And I didn't fund the account because they wanted like a scan of my driver's license. And I was like, this is stupid, because the whole premise was that back then it was like, the whole premise was that,
outside the system.
Yeah, I was like, this is
Centralized.
ridiculous. It's like, so I got distracted. But at the time, Bitcoin was $400 or something. Now, that wasn't my first run-in with it. I also had a run-in like, maybe it was 2010. I mean, people are going to, in the comments, barbecue me because they it's hard to remember, but I think it was 2010. It was about $10. And this guy, Frank, that I knew, he's a really smart guy. This guy found a loophole in a sweepstakes in like 1983 or something, early 80s. And he sent in like thousands of entries using the loophole, and he nearly bankrupted it was like a beef stew company. And he was on the CBS Evening News about this. Anyway, this guy, Frank, he was like, I was in his car, and he was like, hey man, he goes, you got any Bitcoin? I was like, nah, dude, I don't got any of that. And he was like, you should get like $10,000 worth of it. It's like $10. And I was like, nah, it's just ridiculous. So that wasn't my first thing either. Before that, there was this guy that I knew that was a total pedant, right? Like, this guy was like the worst, and named Tim. Okay. And Tim, I mean, this is the cheapest guy I think I've still to date ever known. Tim, like, this guy had a bunch of rental property. He had a duplex that he lived in one side and rented the other. And it was like not a nice place, I mean, and he had like quite a bit of money. So anyway, so Tim was like, Bitcoin was like $1. Okay. This is like 2009. Okay. Something like that. And he was like, I got all these old computers, because he was like into scrap stuff. He was like into like office space that would fail. Like, he'll go in there for like like nothing and get all the desks and all that stuff and then like try to sell them. This type of person. These people are very annoying. So he was like, I got all these old computers, like these towers. Remember these things? They were like clunky Dells and stuff. And we can mine this Bitcoin. It's like $1. And I was like, why would we do that? So anyway, so my point is, I've been around. I mean, it's not like I learned about this from a YouTube video. There was no such thing as YouTube back then. So I didn't buy any Bitcoin
from the beginning.
I didn't buy any Bitcoin until it was like, 30,000 or something like that, and a lot of people have like really hostile things to say to me about that, which to me is really amusing because it's like, let me get this straight. I go 4x on this thing, right? Better than that. Like, I think it's going to go a lot higher. It's only like a 2.35 fully diluted market cap on Bitcoin, as you know. Gold is like 26 trillion. I think that's going to go higher. The public debt is like 37.5 trillion.
Yeah.
The total value of the U.S. stock market is like 70 trillion. So like for Bitcoin to go to 5 trillion, is that possible? Sure. Sure. I mean, like that's completely possible. So my point is, let me get this straight. I go, 300 or 400% on something, and like, you got nasty things to say to me. So I just find that interesting because I'm like, the way I see it is like, what do you care? I mean, like if something is going up, literally the United States Treasury wants you to buy things that go up in price, sell them, pay tax, and buy other things. That's what they want you to do. The problem is like, you're not going to cooperate with them. You're going to buy things that go down. So like they want you to make money and pay tax and keep buying things. That's what they want you to do. So we should do that, and we should have fun while doing it. So my point is that like, that's how I see this thing. Now, the plumbing system behind Bitcoin, I think is going to be like the OG kind of like the thing that got it all going. I think there's going to be some novelty to that because there's a bit of magic in that like original thesis. That to me is like going to always be this like sort of, Abraham's like message to the to the world, of like, this is the deal. And then the things that come after that it's going to be like, who's going to be the power behind it. And are there 20,000 meme coins or so? I don't know. There's a lot of coins, and we could create one in like 10 minutes. And it's obviously like going to be a low number of those that make it. Like, I know you guys follow XRP. Like, I know a lot of people that follow XRP. I know a lot of people with a lot of opinions about XRP. And I'm sort of like I am with gold. Like, obviously, like I was into the gold market, like when you guys were in, had braces. I mean, and I just kind of like, I saw everything around it. I was on the board of smaller company, all this different stuff. Like, okay, fine. But like realistically, just having some gold, a small percentage of gold was a great idea. And I think it's going to be like that with Bitcoin. Like, I think the game is going to be, you can play in that space with like people that are connected, who are there's definitely going to be some winners. It's quite difficult to determine. Like, people always talk about Amazon, but let me just tell you, like in the early days, it sounded crazy to buy somebody selling books on the internet.
Right.
So it's like really unusual that you would have bought that. And if you had bought that, you would have been like, man, I got to get out of the book business. I got to double in this thing. It's a matter of time, so I think there's something to be said for like a small percentage of gold, a small percentage of Bitcoin, and a very open mind trying to spot what becomes the leader. Because I mean, it might not be like necessarily, if the XRP guys get so fixated that I'm just like, well, I don't know. I mean, like, was JP Morgan the best bank? Probably not. Like, it was the most connected bank, but probably not. There was probably a better bank, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, there was probably, First Citizens is a great bank. And it took like, 50 more years for them to become a top, 20 bank. So, but they got connected. The guy that runs that died and his kid took over and he got connected and they took over Silicon Valley Bank. And then boom, you see now he's like a deal maker on the scene. He's on the scene in DC and New York, All right. So like, which one of these cryptos is going to be on the scene? Because the check fraud, all this stuff that I'm having, that I'm telling you about, that's all going to go away. I mean, now obviously there will still be fraud, but it'll be different. There'll be like cyber fraud, like, the intelligence community loves, crypto stuff. Like, it's great. I mean, this is like really great for spooky money theft. Okay. So like,
It's true.
that's
Yeah,
going
I've seen
to be
it.
happening, it's going to be happening. And, but we don't need to worry about that because there's always going to be theft. And, like money is not finite. I mean, like if you have kids and your kids are morons and you give your kids a bunch of money, they'll like slowly distribute the money into all kinds of funny places. And then the system keeps moving. Like, there's a great documentary about I love art. So like the Barnes in Philly, it's this crazy museum. And like the guy was like, I want to make this permanent collection that nobody can screw up. Guess what? They screwed it up. Then there's like Cooper Union, the school near my place in New York. They had the ground lease in the Chrysler building. And the guy was like, you'll never have to raise money as a college. It'll protect your ability to teach and to whatever. Guess what? They screwed it up. So like, there is no like avoiding. Money naturally erodes if you don't know how to take care of it. Like it has its own way of finding, it's like water on a roof or something. It finds its way to the place where it wants to be. And so I think when people see that, they're like, okay, so there's definitely going to be new plumbing. There's definitely going to be new supervisory mechanisms. There's definitely going to, like, for example, another thing that's going to happen, I don't know about your property tax bills, like they have this goofy number, that like is how it's like recorded with the county. That's going to be gone. Like, all that's going to go on a blockchain. There's going to be like, 50 cat ladies that work in that office down at the county that are going to be totally out of work, and home watching TV. And so you start looking at all these different things and you're like, multiply that by the number of counties in America. They're all gone. Like, so all the assets will be recorded, on a blockchain,
Right.
all these things will happen. Like clearinghouses, gone. You don't need them. The instantaneous, it used to be when I was a baby, it was T+5 settlement. Then it was a big deal to go T+3. And then now T+1, it'll be T0. So it'll be instantaneous. Like the deposit, DTC will be gone. So like, you could trade the stock 1 billion times in a day and it won't matter. It's like the ownership record will go so fast that it won't matter. Like counterparty risk, you can eliminate it. So all this stuff is going to happen. It's all going to happen. And organizations like, the exchanges and all these different things, they're going to be people that will evolve and they're going to be people that are going to be dead.
Right.
And that's the way to look at this thing, because to think, oh, well, this coin is going to work. I got to tell you something. The problem with businesses is the people, because there's politics at every institution, and the politics are not static. They're dynamic. They change as people's lives change. They change as products change. It's always changing. And so to say, because, whoever's running these various coins, how do you know how connected they are? Like if they're in Puerto Rico under a coconut tree, or if they're on a plane with Latinx kids, you can have two different outcomes, and it has very little to do with analytical study. It's all in that case about ability to plug in to the game. That's like the way to see it. But I think that's why like holding gold was a lot better idea than holding mining stocks. Bitcoin is probably going to be a pretty good idea. And there's definitely going to be some winner that'll then later have books written about it. And when you start saying, I have a guaranteed bronze medalist here, or I can take a really low odds bet on the gold medalist, which one do I want? I mean, you take them both. You spread your money out, you take them both, right? But I mean, like, I think once you see that logic, it makes the process of profiting from things easier.
Right. Tucker,
definitely agree.
I totally agree with you. I just want to add something. When you start talking about the plumbing, and I wanted to share this, I did send you some documents as well
Yeah.
covering some of this. You probably saw it, know it. But if you follow also the Bank for International Settlements, do you first of all think that these major institutions still have a say in how things are playing out?
It's yes, to the extent that like right now, if something goes wrong, at
Right.
like if the check fraud,
Something
is like
along that.
rampant, and it's just okay, that's a problem, so yes, in the sense that like they still touch this broad, nature of our system. And but I think there's going to be a new chapter in this.
Right.
And the new chapter is currently writing itself. You see what I mean? There's not
Yep.
like there's the Bank of International Settlements is not necessarily going anywhere. Where people struggle is that it's like it's a different sort of game
Different
that's
beats.
about to be played. Yeah, I mean like
Right.
pre-Fed, pre-BIS, start going back and you start saying like it would be like saying the second national bank of the United States, like, do you think this will be irrelevant? It's okay. Guaranteed some of the relevant puzzle pieces at the second national bank of the United States survived into the BNY melons of the next era, right?
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Like,
Yeah.
but some of them didn't, and so I think like the people that are really hardcore about how they think it should be have got to be careful, because as the chapter is writing itself, it's very important to try really hard to like have a very open mind, like
Of
to
course.
have your trade here and your insight here. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to like slowly close off your
Everything
view
else.
of that's right.
Right.
And
Mhm.
you'll know what's happening. You'll start to see it happening. And I just think that the winners are the ones that are a bit mercenary like.
Right. Vandell and I, we have a very multi-layered, multi-tiered strategy where we're positioned really outside of the system. We're aware of what's going on in the system and just trying to have some skin in the game. It's just when we look at the entire crypto ecosystem, and we do follow, we've done a lot of research into this infrastructure, the IMF, the United Nations, so forth. But they have something called a money flower. And this is something Lynette Zhang shared with us. And it highlighted by the Bank for International Settlements that there were specific digital monies that would sit inside or outside the control of central bank purview. Is that even possible? Do you
Look,
see anything like that?
the way to think about it is sometimes people that give you information have another business, and their real goal is to,
Sell gold.
Mislead you.
I mean, not really mislead you. It's just that, like, don't buy a car from the weatherman. All right. But the thing is that this whole notion that, like one of the things I say occasionally in the newsletter is like, it really cracks me up that people are like, the system's going to collapse, and I want to know which penny stock I should buy to benefit from it. And it's like,
Yeah. No, I get it.
Look, I mean, another one that really I think is hilarious is I remember when people were buying, like in 2005-ish, Iraq war days, they were buying like boxes of old Iraqi dinars or whatever, like
Yeah.
that it was going to revalue or something.
They're still doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, okay, like I just
there's a lot of nonsense out there.
It's not like it's technically, it's not like it's a lie. It's not like it's all totally wrong. But what it's doing is it's like picking these different pieces of this dynamic puzzle and trying to pin them down. The central banks are going to blah, blah, blah. Okay, look, we just got done explaining to you that you're going to basically implode these central bank structures of the last era. So, like, just make sure you don't forget that. Like, those were relics of capitalism.
Right.
It's not the same system, so that you gotta, obviously you gotta have a toe in that.
Yeah.
But like, you really got to be careful to not use yesterday's market to make decisions with conviction today.
I agree.
That's
totally
the
agree.
deal. That's the deal. And so I think that's where people get in trouble. Now, it's also not like catastrophically wrong. I mean, like, you can like study something to death and have a position, and like, you can do other things. It's not like but I used to have this buddy that was like this XRP guy, and this guy was so hardcore. I mean, he would like almost ruin a cigar get together trying to convince us that like there was a faster way to move money across borders.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily wrong. Okay. Like, so we would say, like, you're right about this, but I think what you might have missed is like the nature of borders.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Very
so
solid,
like,
right.
So what did this guy do? He is like spending the baby formula money on XRP. Well, he runs out of steam.
Yeah.
And he sells. And it went up. So what I'm saying is that when you notice yourself going too much into detail, you have to try to do that in a contained space in your mind. And then like when you study let's just take it back to gold, and you get all hardcore on a mining stock or something, but then you forget to look at the gold market, and you forget to look at the political climate, and you forget to look at the economic situation, right? Yeah. It's like, it's one piece of this thing.
You got to step back.
It's interesting, right? It's very interesting.
And I'm just fascinated by the tech.
It should definitely be examined.
Right.
But the problem is that people want a salvation story. That's what they want.
I've noticed that.
It's very
toxic.
They want that, and they want it to be simple. They want it to be USA Today simple.
Right.
If you look at all the great religions of the world, they are simple. Like, it's why Zen is not popular, because it requires thinking. So what's popular is, we're going to get this out of the way in 10 minutes, right? You're doomed, but we have a solution for you. It's very simple. So
the truth.
You've got to try to understand that it's not even that the solution is necessarily wrong. It's just that, like, you can't say, now I got the solution, I'm good, I beat everybody, right? Like, I got over on all my friends and relatives because I got the solution. So like, it's just really bad. It's a bad neighborhood.
Let's talk about gold then. It did reach another all-time high, and typically when you see gold starting to rise, it signals several things. I would say rising geopolitical instability, weak trust in the dollar, of course, and then asset inflation that's driven by the debasement of fiat currency and the debt-based system. What is the underlying story that central banks are buying so much gold at record pace?
I mean, we think they are. I mean, we don't really know.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, none of us have investigated. I went to the New York Fed in May of 2001. I got a tour of the basement vault.
Wow.
And
interesting.
There is gold there. So like, it's
good.
being moved around by these little dudes with aluminum shoes on that like, if you drop the rounded, so if you drop the 400-ounce good delivery bar, it doesn't smash your foot. But we think they're buying. We read the GATA or World Gold Council reports, and but I'm not sure that it matters, because the thing is that gold is not really for people like you. Okay, that's what you have to really be careful about. Is that, like, you can notice that it's not I mean, how many other assets, are up 1,000% or whatever, in 2 decades and get very little accurate media attention? Think about it. I mean, it's like,
yeah, you're right.
None. And so there's going to be a day, and it's not going to be that much longer, that gold is going to be demonized as something that people own. And I think that you'll probably be wise to be a bit quiet about it, and then, have space to make your decisions. I mean, that's coming from the guy that wrote a highly distributed book about the subject, which I'm not sure was like the smartest thing to do, but the book is factual and useful, and like, I don't think, it's going to land me in any federal prison or anything. But I mean, I do think there's going to come a day where it's going to be done. It's already hard to get gold. Like if you try to buy gold, like most of the dealers are total clowns. Like they have made way too much money. The people from the 70s that were buying, and overpaying, they're all gone. There's not really any young people buying gold. The physical demand does almost nothing to move the price. So what moves the price? Well, the futures market moves the price, and futures market is magic. And there's a documentary called Hypernormalization by Adam Curtis, and it's really good. You can watch it on Amazon for free.
Yeah,
you might have seen this. Anyway, Curtis also did Century of the Self, which is also very good. But there's this part in these documentaries, you kind of got to watch both of them, but where they talk about Arm and Hammer, the guy that ran Occidental Petroleum, sort of a maniacal guy. Anyway, this guy like had a deal with the Libyan kind of rebels and all this different stuff, and then he like lost his concession there, and this guy was like flipping out. I mean, he was like an old man. It was like flying over there in his citation, and like trying to get the government to like send some missiles over there to like punish whatever. And what happened is there's this line in the I think like no one really thought about this when they said this in the thing, but they essentially said that like they figured out how to like take power back from the Arabs by setting the oil price using the futures market, which wasn't really necessarily something that they did kind of in the oil crisis days. I mean, I think it's like, how everything creates new technological kind of possibilities, right? Like it's, digital surveillance doesn't happen until, there's like digital freedom for a while, it's like whatever. So I think coming out of that crisis, there was some innovation with respect to like by the 80s, you had this like tumbling oil price. We have all these reasons for it, but essentially like they made a comment in this thing to the effect that like that the Arabs had gotten like lots of power, in the high oil price era, because I mean, before that, it was like not exactly like the most kind of flush with cash place.
Right.
And so anyway, so then you're like, okay, well, if that's the case, I mean, it's like even easier with gold, because I mean, there's nobody even using it. So like, it's like oil is like harder, there's like ships of it floating around. There's like 50 different kinds of it. It's very complicated. So like with gold, super easy. And so you watch over here, over this shoulder, there's the spot price and the futures price. And like that market has changed a lot. I mean, in that long period, from 2011 to like 2020, let's just say take 2020 out, say to like 2022, that period was marked with like days where you'd have half a year's supply trade in the futures market. It's just like really crazy. I mean, like there is no, think about it, like Barrick and Newmont, and like, I mean, there's a lot of producers, like there's Chinese, you start adding all this up, and it's like all the gold produced, it's not that much. I mean, it's like maybe 1.5 to 2%, of the whole world supply, like a year max. And to imagine that somebody sold like half that in a day, it's impossible. And so then people say, well, you're just a crank because, you don't understand that people are using it to hedge and all this stuff. And I'm like, it's not really true.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's not really people that are like, let me have this like complicated straddle on for the morning or whatever on golds that have so much exposure. I've got to like, I've just got to protect my position here. People don't really do that, and so anyway, so I think that's what's moving it. And I think that like, I just think that it's worth having some, and it's also worth realizing that it's not something you're probably going to be allowed to have forever. And
Yeah.
that doesn't really matter, because you're you know, like if you face a big excise tax or something, you have some decisions to make. And everybody says, like my great grandmother evidently had a huge box of 19th century coins, like a cigar box full of them,
Wow.
and gave them to the bank, when they called them in. And my grandfather was telling me that she was like a really smart lady, and he was like, he goes, you're really too young to understand. I mean, this is like 20 years ago. He's like, you're really too young to understand what it's like to have a newspaper hit your doorstep every single day. It's your primary way of getting information, and the front page is the country's facing this, like, it might end. You see how it goes? And then you go to play bridge with the other ladies, and that's what they're talking about. And see how it goes? It's like, to think that you would have been like, oh, I'm gonna keep this gold. He's like, you're really underestimating, like, a lot of the facts. And I think that's what we're talking about with a lot of things, is that, like, people become very myopic, and I think it's dangerous. And so I think you have to hold life a little looser, and realize that, like, what do we have right now? We got a gold bull market. So that's what we got right now. So, like, you got the gold, it's going up in value, and that's what you want to do. And what should you worry about? Not, building your own time capsule. You should worry about riding this bull market until it dies, and riding the next bull market. And you can do it. And, like, people can call you a mercenary, they can call you names, but, like, what's going to happen is that you're just going to have a blast, and you're going to have more positive experiences than negative, and things aren't going to really seem like that much of a mystery, and you're not going to, like, pound your fist and fight when something goes the other way. And that's the point. That's the people don't get it, man. That's the trick. Like, that's how you consistently come out on the right side of the bell curve. That's how it works.
It circles back to what we talked about in the beginning, really.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. But all right, guys. Well, let's
really appreciate it.
Yeah, let's do this again, and we'll see how the year plays out. And it's just so great to connect. And people should, ebtucker.com. People should read the Tucker letter. You can read for free. There's a paywall portfolio, but you don't have to do that. You can read just quite a bit of content for free, and that's like my canvas. That's like my place. It's every other week, and you're not going to get any tacky advertising, and I don't have a publisher. Like, this is sort of like, doesn't make a lot of financial sense. I got a lot of hard times from my CPA and lawyers and people that are really wondering what I'm doing. But when you read it, you know exactly what I'm doing. And, if you don't read, I can't write. And
I love reading. I mean, I still read. I can't spend my days on the phone just trying to digest information in 30, 60 seconds. It's quite annoying, actually.
Yeah.
And, I really want to thank you so much just for taking the time to speak with us. I mean, it really is invaluable what you've been saying here.
Yeah,
and I think our audience, they're going to come away with a much deeper understanding of everything that's going on. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I look forward to catching up with you again.
Yeah, we really hope so. So yeah, that would be great. Yeah, thanks, Tucker. We'll put your details in the description as well. So
thanks so much, guys.
Take care.
Take care.